Hey, 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 what's going on, everybody? My name is Jason. You're watching Redfish Bluefish. This is the channel where we examine art, nature, and science through the lens of the aquarist. It's Friday. It must be Friday because all you guys are here hanging out with me, and thank you so very much for each and every one of you for hanging out, coming by, and to each of my mods for showing up and doing your modly duties. I cannot thank you guys enough. Now, you might have guessed from the title or the thumbnail, if you prefer, of this live stream, we're going to discuss aquascapes. Specifically, we're going to discuss the future of some aquascapes in my shop right here. We're going to talk about some styles I'm leaning towards, some styles I want to implement here against this wall, as you know, basically in a gallery. And I thought that we would go through them, discuss some different styles, some of my likes, my dislikes, just kind of nerd out for about the next hour or so. But before we do, we're going to jump right in and we're going to do our top 10 early birds. These are, as you might have guessed, the first 10 people who were in chat long before this live stream began, which was only 3 minutes ago. So this time around, we have, I think this is only the second time that this lovely individual has placed first here at Redfish Bluefish in the old early bird challenge. First place this time goes to Sandy Dowdy. Sandy, congratulations. Hey, Sandy, you take first place. Welcome to the, I guess we could say, the leader of the pack in the winner's circle. How about that? Second place, we have Mridul Singh. I don't know why, but Mridul, anytime I say your name, I absolutely have to announce it as if you are a boxer coming up into the ring, getting ready to fight. I don't know why. I don't know why. I can't help myself. Second place goes to Mridul. Third place goes to Peplin Creek Aquatics. Pep, congratulations, my friend. You are also in the winner's circle. Fourth place goes to, I don't think I've seen this person here before, but thank you so much for being here so early, man, and for placing fourth in the winner's circle. Scuzzy takes fourth place. Fifth place, we have someone who is missing right now. They did explain that they wouldn't be able to attend, but they did duck in really early to nab fifth place. We got BG Aqua in fifth place. Congratulations, BG Aqua. Sixth place, a very familiar name here at Redfish Bluefish, DC Kyle. DC Kyle, thanks, man. Appreciate you coming by and taking sixth. Seventh place goes to Amy 5 Aquatics. Amy 5 Aquatics, you are seventh. Eighth place goes to another rather familiar name here, Laura Sutton. Laura Sutton, thank you so much for taking eighth place. Ninth and 10th go to the Codys. Ninth place goes to Cody Donovan. Cody Donovan, congratulations. And 10th place goes to the other Cody, Cody-san. Congratulations, Cody-san. Appreciate it. That is the conclusion of the top 10 early birds. Guys, if you did not make the top 10 early bird shout out thing and you didn't get the shout out, don't worry. I love you all the same. Just show up a little bit early next time and you'll probably make it. So let's get started. Let's start talking about some aquascapes. Now, before I get started, I want to point out something that you guys, hopefully, I mean, there's a lot of plant people in here. I know there's probably a whole lot more fish people in here than there are plant people, and that's totally cool. And there are probably even fewer aquascapers, but that's fine. One thing I would like you guys to check out and pay attention to as we go through these aquascapes, please, if you don't mind, please try in your mind to see triangles. Okay, you're going to see them all over the place, from the tips of plants down to corners of, you know, focal areas that hardscape makes, down to a third point and back. You'll start to see triangles everywhere. You're going to see inverted ones. You're going to see, you know, right side up ones. It's a very important part of aquascaping to kind of work in triangles. So without further ado, I want to jump right in, and we're going to switch to our primary small camera, as it's called here, and we are going to take a look at the very first aquascaping style that I'm very drawn to. A lot of people would say, oh, well, that's a very simple style, and they'd be right. but they'd be wrong if they thought it was easy. It is not, and we're going to get into that. The first style that I want to look at, point out to you guys, I'm sure you're familiar with it, is the Iwagumi. Now, this is a very well done Iwagumi aquascape. You can see it's got really, really thick, dense green carpeting, really nicely done. Clearly, professional CO2, professional grade light, CO2 injection, water column fertilization, high performance substrate system, all of that stuff is going on in this aquarium. Now, the Iwagumi style, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but typically, well, not typically speaking, it's basically where you're working, the only hardscape you should be working with are stones, okay, rocks. And you should always be arranging them in odd numbers. That's kind of the rule, right? That's the Takashi Amano and ADA and all of that goes way, way back. Clearly, it's Japanese. And the rule is that you always put your stones in there in odd numbers. And almost never do you just go with one stone. It's always 3 or 5 or 7 or 9. Usually you don't go higher than like 7 or 9 stones. But the idea with Iwagumi is that you go with one large stone and then a slightly smaller one and a slightly smaller one and a slightly smaller one. And you end up with some odd number of stones. That's very important in Iwagumi that you work with these triangles. Now you can look here very clearly and see right off the bat 2, 3 triangles that you can draw with your eyes. Looking at the way that the green goes up in the back, right? There's 2 triangles right there. There's one there and there's one there. Very easy to see. The rocks, actually, the main arrangement of the rocks, 1, 2, 3. That's a 3rd triangle. So hopefully you guys can see what I'm talking about. Triangles are really, really important in adding depth and especially character and interest to your aquascapes. Now, with the Iwagumis, right, the Iwagumi layouts, especially the ones like this, the traditional, what I call the traditional ones, where there's no wood, there's just rocks, right? With the larger of the stones, typically the largest of the stone, some people call it the father stone, others call it a keystone. There's actually a Japanese name for it. I'm not going to go through all the different names for the stones because I don't feel like it. But with the largest stone, the father stone if you prefer, often it needs to be really, really beautiful, but it's supposed to have a blemish, not a major blemish, but a slight blemish. And the Japanese absolutely believe that slight blemish makes it unique and even more beautiful. And I too, I feel the same way because I've seen it. So this is absolutely, we got a comment here from BJ Palmer. I like this carpet. Looks so inviting to my toes. Yes, absolutely. I could just lose myself in that carpet myself. I agree with you, BJ Palmer. So there are 2 things that are really, really important with Iwagumi. I'm definitely we're gonna put a really nice Iwagumi, a carpeted Iwagumi here in the shop. It's gonna be a really nice show tank. But there are 2 things that are very, very important with Iwagumis, traditional Iwagumis. Excuse me for a moment. Now, the first thing that's really, really important is your stones, right? There's nothing in there, it's just rocks, stones. So you want to really take your time and search for stones that have a lot of beauty, a lot of character. At that larger of the stones, you want to look for, a lot of beauty in that one especially. But if you can find one with a real slight blemish in it and make sure that blemish is visible, you're going to be surprised at how beautiful it actually comes out. So the number one thing really to remember is pay attention to your stones, right? Don't just get any old stones. So 3 pieces of broken, nasty granite with no character, no angles, anything like that. You want to avoid that. Not that I have anything against lava, but red lava or even large black lava stones, usually not the greatest idea. You can do Iwagumis with them, but they just don't have enough texture and character. They have a lot of pits all over them, porous. They're so porous, but they're just not quite, misshapen and lumpy enough, quite frankly, to bring enough interest to an Iwagumi. So you might want to avoid those. Another really important thing with the iwagumis is working with your substrate and building it up as it goes in the back in little hills, because you want to add depth. You want to make sure that you have, you know, some green or some red plants, something like that, in front of your stones and around them, and also something behind them to show that depth. Without that, it just really doesn't work so well. So that's the first style I wanted to cover with you guys. Now that's actually, this is a professional iwagumi. It's very, very well done. No question about that. Now, it is still a simple iwagumi. I want to show you guys another one, a dynamic iwagumi. And you guys will hopefully see what I'm talking about. Now this is also an iwagumi, you can tell. It's a little bit, might be the same size aquarium in fact, but it's got a lot of rocks coming out of it. This would be considered a much more dynamic iwagumi because it's got a lot more plant variety in it, and the plants are growing out from this, you know, the center of the stones. And remember what I said, you want to make sure that you're showing off depth. You know, you're giving depth to your aquascapes. This does a pretty good job at it, a really good job at it. One thing I want to point out, now it's not a mistake, it's something that I would have changed with this. You see the grass, the really beautiful aquatic grass that's growing out of the center of those stones there. You see that there is one stone that's kind of behind it. In fact, there's two. I would have put the very top of another stone peeking out from the very, very back, from behind that green grass, just a touch of stone, just behind it to play off of that depth perception, to make, and what that would have done, it would have made it appear much deeper than it really is. In fact, that's a lot of what we're doing with aquascaping. We're using arrangements to lend depth and character to a space that simply isn't there. It's an optical illusion. So that's one thing I would have probably changed with that. I would have put a little bit more stone just behind that green grass, more or less in the middle, slightly to the left. But it's a very, very nicely done aquarium. I'm not sure what they used for carpeting, but very, very nicely done. So I wanted to next be a little bit, not unkind, but I wanted to point out something I said before, that iwagumis, you know, a lot of people say, oh, they're simple, and they are. There's not a whole lot to the mechanics of putting together an iwagumi. There's a lot of planning that needs to go into it. You really need to really focus on, you know, how much space do you have to work with. Okay, you might want to dedicate about a quarter to a third of that space to stones and substrate, right? Maybe more than a third. And then based off of, you know, how much space you have to work with, that's when you go and start looking for your stones, not before. And that's exactly how you end up with this next example of a very, very bad iwagumi. Very bad. And it's only bad because you can tell it was absolutely not planned. Here we go. Oof. Yikes. Not even its mama would kiss it. That is a very poorly planned iwagumi. So, a couple problems with this. Stones, way too big. Aquarium, much too shallow for those stones. The stones are not arranged together in a classic iwagumi pattern. Not that you have to, but I think it's pretty clear to see how that doesn't exactly work. It's too busy. Stuff is spread out. You have a little bit of space between stones. That's pretty bad. It's not Jeeps and Things with a comment there. Hey, it's my aquarium. Sorry, bro. Sorry about that. No, it was not very well planned. And, you know, kudos to this person for trying it out. I have no idea who this person is. It's just shamelessly taken off the internet. But hopefully you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about there. There's a couple more mistakes I'll point out. Not only are the stones way too large, the rock's way too big for that aquarium, it's way too shallow. I wouldn't have done an iwagumi in this. A very shallow one, yes. But you can see, number one, the stone is way too close to the light. Not only is the stone way too big. Number two, that stone appears to me to be lava. It looks like a mixed lava mixed with some stuff. It looks very, very porous. You can kind of tell what I was talking about. The last stone that we were looking at, right? Let's go back and look at that, that first one. Or I'm sorry, the second one. Right? There's the second one we looked at. And here's the first one we looked at. You see how much character those stones have? That is not lava. That's Siriu and elephant skin stone. It could be cloud stone. You might know it as that. They're all more or less the same thing. Right? We'll go on ahead and go back to the second one, and now look at the stones that were selected. That's mixed lava, and it doesn't look super nice compared to other stones that we could have chosen. Now you could break that large stone down into smaller ones and turn them into little baby stones, or at least make it much smaller than that, and super glue some mosses and stuff to it. You could do a lot to that, but I wanted to point this out as a classic iwagumi mistake. And really, the number one thing that this person didn't do is plan. Plan your work, work your plan. I am a big fan of that. Actually, give me a moment, guys. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I am a big fan of planning your work and working your plan. You got to do it. Otherwise, you're working against yourself. So, I think we've spent enough time on the iwagumi. Man, we're already 20 minutes into this thing. Jeez. Next, I want to get into a style that I am a really big fan of. I love it. It is easily going to be the most work in terms of, well, maybe not in terms of putting it together, but certainly in terms of taking care of it and making sure it doesn't get overgrown. You're going to have a major challenge with the classic Brazilian style. Here we go. Look at this gorgeous aquarium, guys. Now, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't know quite yet about the Brazilian style. Really what it is, it's an aquarium with a lot, generally speaking, a lot of wood with moss glued to it, really low slung, real low in the aquarium towards the front of the aquarium. Sometimes they'll combine it with a diorama, and we'll get into what a diorama is. Often they'll use substrate and little piles of lava with mosses that have been grown on bits of lava, on top of the little piles of lava to make it really look like, well, like that, like there's big piles of moss everywhere, and there are, but underneath it, it's mainly lava and inert rocks, because it would take forever to make those mounds of 100% moss. It would never work. Anyway, this is, yes, here fishy with a comment there, absolutely. Define quote unquote overgrown. Yes, absolutely. So, what the Brazilian style is, it's mainly up front. There's a lot of low-slung mosses, a lot of wood, a lot of vines, stuff like that with mosses glued all over it. And often there'll be little carpeting plants. Usually the carpeting plants tend to be a little bit sparse in the Brazilian style. Now I do see some Hydrocaudale verticillata in the front there, along with some what looks like it could be Riccia, maybe, I'm not sure. But what makes it the Brazilian style is that there's almost always this bright clearing in the middle, and you see that white, that really beautiful white area. There's always this really kind of beautiful white clear vista where there's nothing going on, just some beautiful fish swimming, as you see in that photo. And then underneath it will be some complementary and brightly contrasting strips of densely planted stem plants. Now, this looks like it's probably Rotala, some kind of Rotala, actually different clumps of Rotala, at least, geez, at least 4 different types of Rotala in there. Maybe some Nicaea in the back. It's a pretty small image. You can't really make it out. But this is the Brazilian style. Now, it's a really, really fantastic, it's hard to beat. It's hard to come up with a style that's going to rival this. Now, why is this style so much work? Well, look at how many mosses are in there, and look at how many stem plants are in the back. You guys know that stem plants grow like crazy, and those stem plants look like that, and they're that beautiful because they've been getting tons of light, tons of CO2, tons of water column fertilization. The three things: fertilization, light, carbon. That will absolutely make your stem plants explode and be just as beautiful as that. And you're going to find yourself trimming them and replanting them, about once every 3 weeks. Maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on how much carbon you're pushing. But with that said, guys, I'm really going to go heavy towards at least one aquascape done in this classic Brazilian style because it's really, really hard to beat. I'm going to take a break here, switch to the big camera, and do a little scanning up and see if I have missed anything in chat. Let me switch over to the much better window to use. Remember, guys, if you have anything, specific question, please remember to @redfishbluefish in chat, and it helps it stand out. I've got a comment here from Cichlids23. What light is on this tank, bro? Probably an ADA. Almost certainly an ADA light, a high-performance ADA kind of UNS style light, for sure. To get that kind of growth performance, yeah, almost certainly you're using a very not a cheap light. So just doing a really quick scan up. I'm just like zipping through. I don't see actually any more questions, so we might just be able to continue. Hey, I got a comment here from Atkins Nature Aquariums. Asks, hey bro, how's it going? It's going well, Atkins. Thanks so much for coming by, man. I haven't seen you, well, actually in about a week. It's good to see everybody back here. Yeah, Jeeps and Things here with a comment. Who needs bonsai gardening when you can do that with an aquarium? No one. No one needs bonsai when you can do that with an aquarium. Not that I have anything against bonsai, mind you. It's a really, really nice art there. Give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, guys. Have a little thing going on. I am actually on call right now, so I am kind of live streaming, talking about fish, checking my phone at the same time. I got a few things going on. Nothing too bad right now. We can push ahead. Dragon Lair with a comment there. Jason, I messaged you today. Okay, cool. Hey, guys, if you ever message me on Facebook, be patient. I log into Facebook, if ever, about once a week, once every 2 weeks. I don't like the platform. I very rarely log in. So forgive me if you send me a Facebook message and it takes me a little while to get back to you. I'm super distracted right now. Okay, let's get back to the aquascapes. Now, we were on the classic Brazilian aquascape style. Now, this is a classic Brazilian style. We talked about what it is. Now, remember about 5, 7, 8 minutes back when I said, now the Brazilians, one reason I really like this style is that you can combine it into a fallen arch, or if you prefer, a broken bridge. I don't have any photos of that. We'll save that for another live stream. It's also very, very common that they combine this classic Brazilian style with a diorama. Now, let me show you a great professional creme de la creme example of a Brazilian style aquascape meeting a diorama. Look at this, guys. If this doesn't grab you and make you stop and say, whoa, then I don't know what will. I really don't know what will. Now, this is absolutely a diorama. Now, you see how we have two really large pieces of wood That's what she said. Up front, right? Really, really up front in the aquarium, like really close to the glass. You don't do that normally. You put that way back, far away, you know, in the back, behind some rocks and stuff like that, right? Not so in a diorama. In a diorama, you put your large pieces of wood, your large stones, stuff like that, really up front, real close, like usually almost always on one side or the other, or both, such as the case with this aquascape. You put your aquascape, your large hardscape up front close to the glass on one side or the other, on both in this case, and then you build your substrate up in little layers like this. You need to give it ripples. It adds interest and depth. And then through the middle of the aquascape, or sometimes there's two of them, sometimes three, you can just use your own imagination, you use sand to create a pathway. It's very important that as you're really close to the glass, just as you did with your hardscape, the path needs to be really wide and fat. Now, as you get back maybe only 6 to 8, if that, inches away from the glass, you need to narrow the path as it goes up those little ripples that you created. And you can see that it very clearly plays with depth perception and really fools the eye, and makes that aquarium look much, much deeper than it actually is. So that is really what a diorama is. Now, the other thing I didn't mention is, remember I said your hardscape that you put up front close to the glass is always the big stuff, like your big rocks, your big stones. Now, you don't want to block off the view. No, you wouldn't want to do that. But you do want to put your large bits of hardscape up really close to the glass. And as you get further back in the aquarium, you use smaller, much smaller bits of hardscape, smaller stones, smaller bits of wood, the same kind of stone and the same kind of wood, mind you, but much smaller bits. Why? You're doing the same thing that you're doing with that path, that fake path that you made really skinny, only 5, 6, maybe 7 inches back from the glass as it goes up, that little rise. You're playing with depth perception. You're making that aquarium look much, much deeper than it really is. So, that right there that you're looking at, that is a classic diorama meets Brazilian style. Again, you see we have some carpeting plants up front, not too many, it didn't go too crazy. We have that classic diorama path with that white ornamental sand, and then stems, 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 stems. And remember, in our last example, we'll go back and look at the one prior. You see how we have that clearing of whiteness where all the fish are swimming? Same thing. We have a clearing here. Very, very important. That is your ultimate focal point. So go back, look at this one. That's your ultimate focal point, called the focal terminus. Let's go back here. There you go. There is your ultimate focal terminus, where those fish are swimming. That's why it's clear. So, those are a couple of examples of the Brazilian style, the Brazilian aquascaping style. Very stem heavy, plays a lot with color, with contrast, with open space, negative space versus positive space. Comment here from A. Fausto. Nice, even the shape of that open space is aesthetic. Yes, absolutely, yeah. What is true of Iwagumi is very, very true of other styles. It's not so much what you have in the aquarium and where you have it. It's what you don't have in the aquarium and where you don't have it. You need those open spaces. You need that negative, because the human mind is immediate. We can't keep our minds from trying to find patterns in things. It's impossible. The human brain can't not look for a pattern. And if something's, too symmetrical, it's not interesting to us. It doesn't entertain the human mind. We don't find those patterns, those same urges that we see with this design, as opposed to this design. Not pleasing, pleasing. I think it's pretty clear. Anyway, let us move on from the Brazilian Aquascapes. Actually, one more quick moment. Okay, still looking good, guys. Going on, or moving on, I should say. We only have 2 more styles to cover, and I think the last 2 styles that I want to talk about, yeah, I think that we can just about squeeze those into the last, I don't know, 30, 25, 24 minutes of the show. This is a true classic that actually started, believe it or not, in the 1930s. The classic Dutch style aquarium. Yes, indeed. This style has been around for a long, long time, and it is a classic for a reason. As you can tell, in the Dutch style, we don't really care at all, and I mean at all, about hardscape. No hardscape. I mean, there's no law. The hardscape police aren't going to show up and beat you and take you to hardscape prison, but it's just not done in a Dutch aquascape. It's politely frowned upon. The Dutch are very polite people, but they will politely frown upon it. So, this is the Dutch style. Now, you see that there are really no borders in here except the plants themselves. So with the Dutch style, what you want to always make sure you're doing is you are not planting near each other 2 even remotely similar plants. So if you have 2 green plants with, say, kind of like needle-like leaves, you would not want to plant them near each other at all. You need to separate them. And you need to separate them in one of 3 ways. You need to separate them with color, you know, pick a different color, put something else a different color next to it. You need to select, if not a different color, then something wildly different texture. And here you see 3 green plants that actually border each other, but the textures of them, you know, the shape of the leaves and the textures, very, very different, right? And then 3, if you can't separate them by texture and by color, then it's very important that you at least separate them by height, right? You need to put them in different places and make sure they're different heights. And that is kind of it in terms of the Dutch style. I mean, the Dutch style is very demanding indeed. You really have to keep up with maintaining the aquarium. You cannot let plants, you know, start putting out little runners or little, you know, side shoots, anything like that. Any encroachment of a plant outside of its little borders that you see that, you know, the creator of this aquascape chose, any encroachment outside of those borders must be dealt with snip, snip immediately, because if you do not, that will not be a Dutch aquascape for very long. It will very quickly become a jungle aquarium. It'll be a very beautiful jungle aquarium for quite some time. But eventually, it's not going to go well. Let me jump over and check chat real quick, guys. Check chat. I'm going to check chat. Looks like we have 47 in and 47 thumbs ups. Wow, I will take it, guys. Thank you so much. That is a 100% thumbs up rate. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Let me just scroll up here and see what we got. Oh, we got a question here from EJ Fishes 76. Redfish, bluefish, what is your favorite carpeting plant? Ah, that is a hard one. It's a very hard one. Oh, gosh. Man, I don't really have a favorite one. I have some favorites. I like Marsilleias, Marsileia crenata, Marsileia hirsuta. I like both of those Marsilleias because they don't grow really, really dense. You can plant them in little patches and then throw other stuff in between it, and it doesn't overpower other carpeting plants. They tend to it stays in its little area where you planted it, and it spreads pretty slowly. Marsileia hirsuta and Marsileia crenata are both really, really nice. It's not really a carpeting plant, but it's a low-slung creeping plant. Another really great plant that I love is Hydrocotyla verticillata. Hydrocotyla verticillata. Let me type that in chat and maybe you guys can look it up. There you go. I just popped it into chat. Maybe you want to do a copy pasta into Google image search and see what Hydrocotyla verticillata looks like. It looks like little parasols, little umbrellas. Really, really fantastic plant to use in accents, you know, in the foreground and in the midground. So I do not think that I have missed anything. Any comments other than that? Let me go up and make sure I'm not being a bad host. Steel Angus, vet? No, a government assassin. No, not quite, man. Not quite. Scuzzy with a comment. Hydro Japan is badass. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's very, very nice. It's another very nice plant. Let me switch back over and we will continue. So this is the Dutch style. I really, really like the Dutch style. Sometimes I really wish that somebody would just throw some stones in the middle, some rocks or some hardscape somewhere in a Dutch style aquarium and just to see if it works. I'm guessing it wouldn't, but we might try that. We're definitely going to put together a Dutch style aquascape. I mean, I don't even know if you want to call it an aquascape. It's just a Dutch style planted tank. I wonder if I could enlist the help of a couple of green thumb buddies of mine here in the greater Seattle area to come out and give me a hand. I think that Mr. Bentley Pasco and Mr. Alexander Williamson might be quite handy at this sort of thing. Anyway, guys, that is the Dutch style planted tank. Now I have a second example, and I do want to show it to you. Really quite lovely. Boom, look at this. Another example of what I was talking about. A lot of work, highly, highly, highly manicured. This should very much remind you of walking down the street in a very rich neighborhood you might not belong in, and walking in front of some ridiculously rich person's house that has all of their hedges perfectly, you know, maintained and professionally taken care of, all the, you know, landscaped beautifully. This should remind you of that, actually. And this is another great example of how you don't necessarily have to use different colors with every plant. Clearly, we have green, 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 green. There's a lot of green in there. But, again, they're using placement, right? This green plant is high, this green plant is that high, this green plant is that high. They're different heights, and they're separated by negative space, right? And they're using, the second thing they're using, texture. Texture is wildly different on all those green plants. They don't even look the same, right? Now, they're green, that's about the only difference, and they're plants and in water. But other than that, you can clearly tell that they're different plants, for certain. So this is another really great example of a Dutch style aquarium. And again, this is something that, well, we're going to play around with here. Actually, something really nice in this, they even, it looks like they have some lily, tiger lily in here. Now that is a nice touch that you normally don't see in Dutch style aquariums, not often. Okay, guys, we're down to the last style I wanted to talk to you about tonight. Now, hopefully throughout this, before we go to the last style, the last layout style, aquascaping style, whatever, hopefully you have been paying attention and you have been drawing patterns with your eyes, patterns in your head. Remember I said, look out for your triangles. Triangles, triangles, triangles. You're going to see triangles in this next style big time. Check this out. This is what I call the two hills jungle style, right? Sometimes it's not two hills. Sometimes it's just, well, like this, like two bundles of wood, one on one side and one on the other. Sometimes it is. It's just a pile of stones on the right, pile of stones on the left with negative space in the middle. A lot of carpeting plants, A lot of moss planted on the stones and the wood, and then tons and tons of stems and needle-leaf java fern plugged into between the branches and the stones. It's a very, very effective style, really, really effective style of aquascape. It's simple. If you are not that gifted or that experienced with aquascaping, this might be the style for you, either an Iwagumi or the Two Hills style, or the Two Hills jungle style, as I call it. It's very effective, and you could very much ooh and ah your buddies, your friends and family if you bust one of these things out. I think I have another one. I'm not sure. Yes, here we go. Now, this is truly a masterpiece aquarium here. This is the last aquarium, the last aquascape that I wanted to show you for this evening. This is truly a professional aquascape. I'm not sure who did it. Found it with Google. But again, can you not see a triangle there, guys? There's a lot of stuff going on in this aquarium. You've got a classic triangle. This is definitely a jungle style, right? And it's a diorama, right? You've got a little bit of a path going up through the middle there. So this aquarium here is definitely something to write home about. In fact, I think I'm going to drag this thing potentially to the top. Sorry guys, bear with me. So we can all marvel at its beauty. Look at that. So clearly we've got the diorama going on. We got the sand. And you see, as they go up, they didn't really narrow the path quite as much as I would have probably thought they would have. But it's very effective nonetheless. I want to say that this is actually a mix of almost all the styles we talked about tonight, because if you look in the back, you see a lot of stems going on there. Now, I wouldn't call that a full-on Brazilian style, but geez, that is pretty much a combination of everything. I mean, you have the Iwagumi, right? You have your stones in there, and they're in the classic triangles. You can't see much of them because there's so much stones, there's so much stuff going on. But clearly here we have represented something of a diorama. Definitely Iwagumi elements going on. Definitely the jungle style. There's no question about that. I mean, it doesn't get much more jungle. We have elements of the Brazilian style with the heavy stems starting in the back. Yeah, this is just a fantastically amazing aquarium. And if we think about it, because we have a little path going up the middle, it actually divides our hardscape into two hills. So we really have the two hills. We have something of a Brazilian. We have a diorama. We've got the Iwagumi going on. The only thing we really don't have represented here is the Dutch style. And I mean, you know, we can't have everything. There's no way. I don't believe that you're gonna fit a Dutch style aquarium into this layout. It's just not going to be possible. So guys, let me go on ahead and switch over, and I am going to scroll up, see if I have any at Redfish Bluefish messages. I don't think so. I think that you guys have just been looking at the beautiful aquascapes for the most part. I know I would be. Yeah, I see some Bucephalandra in here. I see some Pinatophyta. Looks like Limnophila. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in this aquarium, and something that I'd point out that's actually very advanced. Something that I'm not particularly good at is using the side glass, right? The glass on the side of the aquariums. As you look at the front of the aquarium, your vision, you want the viewer's vision to bounce off the side panels of the aquarium and then bounce back in, as you see in this photograph. You can clearly see when you look at the side of the aquarium that it's highly reflective, and that the plants have been arranged in such a way to where you're getting reflections off of that glass. And again, it plays with depth perception and wideness, right? It makes it appear a lot deeper and a lot wider and a lot more interesting than it really is. That is, I guess, what it's all about. We got an @redfish bluefish here from A Fausto, and a comment here from Dragon Lair asking, what's the fern looking plants on the left? That's a great question. That is, I can't really tell. I can't really tell, Dragon Lair. Whatever it is, it sure is pretty. It's almost certainly a hygrophila, a leaf structure. More likely than not, it's a hygrophila of some sort. Yeah, this Aquascape did very, very well. I don't think it took first place in International Aquatic Plant Layout, IAPLC, whatever it's called. It didn't take first place, but it placed very well because this person understands shadow and reflection very well. I mean, this person is definitely an advanced aquascaper, professional, no question about it. Much better than me. But we're going to try our best with a bunch of really killer aquascapes all across that wall here in the shop. We're going to have a beautiful aquatic nature gallery for people to come in and just kind of chill out, just chillax in front of, just lose themselves in the nature. Looks like I have a comment here from DC Kyle. DC Kyle asks, what size tanks are you thinking for the scape tanks? Will you be selling fish and plants out of them, or just letting them be? I'll just let them be. They're for display purposes only. We're kicking around 60s and 90s. 60Ps, 90Ps. Those are great sizes. Comment or question rather here from A Fausto. How do you professionally judge tanks like this? By style or just plant types? It's a lot of different. Don't get me lying on what it's judged by. If you go on YouTube and you look at the latest IAPLC, that's the International Aquatic Plants Layout Contest. It's put on by Aqua Design Amano. It's hosted out of Japan. All that stuff. If you watch one of those, they'll explain, like the judges, they'll bring the judges in, and each judge is kind of looking for something different. One thing's for certain is that in these professional competitions, if you want to take first place, okay, I've never seen an exception to this rule. If you want to take first place, the aquarium must look natural. Okay, I get it that we have some really artistic people out there that do some really crazy stuff, that they're just incredibly talented, that can arrange hardscape in this crazy spiraling patterns that do weird stuff and play with just all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And they do this in aquascaping. They place very, very high. And they definitely show off. It's a bit of a hot rod, kind of hot rodding in these aquascaping contests. But people that do that put together these really beautiful aquascapes, but with these hardscape that's arranged in unnatural and frankly impossible, would never occur in nature, positions, they don't do well. I mean, they do well. They never win first place. So I would say that the number one thing that judges are looking for, above all else, it must be natural. It must look natural, just like this. I mean, that looks supernatural. If you saw a photograph of this in a National Geographic and it wasn't in an aquarium, you would think, wow, that's a beautiful lake. I wonder where that lake is, or pond, or whatever. Well, thank you so much, Lead Jet. 55 watching, only 51 likes. People, Jason deserves better. Oh, thanks so much. You guys are far too kind to me, but I really appreciate it. I'll take all the kindness I can get after the last year. I'm sure you guys would too. Natural Aquariums here with a excellent comment. You can also look at years of AGA competition with judges' notes. Yes, you can. You can watch them. You can watch them for free on YouTube. In fact, I do that from time to time. You know, it's kind of slow on a Saturday, slow on a Sunday. I'll queue up, the IAPLC from 2 or 3 years ago and just kind of flip through them and kind of lose myself. It's cheaper than buying whiskey. Anyway, guys, we are almost at the hour. Let me switch back to my big camera. Hey, look at that. Guys, thanks so much for coming by and hanging out with me. We're almost at the hour. I wanted to go over some of these different layout styles. We covered the Dutch style. We covered the Iwagumi. We covered the, probably, I could easily say it is my favorite. The Brazilian style, the diorama meets Brazil style, and let's see, what else do we do? Oh, we did the two hills, as I call it, the two hills style. Those are definitely styles of aquascapes that we're going to be doing here at Redfish Bluefish, and we're going to be filming them and inviting you guys along as we go on that journey. So if you had fun with me and everyone else, all these other cool, great people hanging out here at the channel and in chat, please would you consider liking, sharing, and subscribing if you haven't done so already. And if you subscribe, please do not forget to mash that bell. That way you get notifications when we're going live, when we're doing giveaways, when I'm doing killer deals on the rare European imported fish behind me, the plants that will be coming in soon, all kinds of cool stuff that has not yet come to pass, but soon enough shall. Guys, I really appreciate you coming by and hanging out. My name's Jason. You've been here at Redfish Bluefish. I am going to wrap it up. And guys, please have yourselves a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next Friday here at Redfish Bluefish. I wish you all peace, love, and happy fish keeping.